Welcome back to Soul Shift, the podcast where real life, science, and soul all get a seat at the table. I'm Mindy Gorman-Plutzer, and joining me are my amazing co-hosts, Christine Morgenstern-Shin and Allie Anderson. If you're new to Soul Shift, this is a space for people, especially women in midlife, who are navigating big shifts in their bodies, their relationships, their work, and their sense of self. We talk about the moments that change us, the nervous system behind it all, and how to come home to yourself in the sometimes messy middle of it all. Today, we're exploring something that we think will fundamentally shift how you understand yourself and your relationships. We're talking about emotional reactions, not as signs of dysfunction or things to fix, but as intelligent attempts at protection. We're diving into what's actually happening beneath anger, beneath shutdown, beneath overthinking, people-pleasing, and overperforming. And we're learning how repair, receiving, and regulation are nervous system skills that can be developed. Our guest today is Laziena Hodge, a relationship repair companion and author whose work bridges nervous system awareness, relational intelligence, and identity transformation. She teaches individuals, parents, and leaders how to understand the need beneath emotional reactions and how to repair without shame or performance. Her proprietary framework is called Repair Language. It reframes emotional reactions as intelligent protection rather than dysfunction. Her work challenges the self-improvement industry's focus on fixing behavior and instead teaches people how to understand the need beneath their patterns. She's known for helping high-functioning adults recognize that overperformance, shutdown, conflict, and people-pleasing are not personality flaws, but they're nervous system strategies. She has courses, podcasts, and live cohorts. Laziena helps people move from reacting to relating and from self-judgment to embodied safety. Her work centers on one core truth. Emotional patterns are protection, not pathology. And her wow is not volume, it's precision. She gives language to emotional experiences people have lived with for decades, but never understood.
Welcome to Soul Shift, a sacred space where modern science, ancient wisdom, and real life come together in perfect harmony.
Each week, we explore the gentle art of transformation. Soul Shift holds space for your beautiful, messy, perfectly imperfect human experience.
Meaningful change doesn't have to break you open. It can unfold softly, like morning light.
Together, we'll uncover tools that honor your truth, share conversations that touch your soul, and celebrate the exquisite complexity of what it means to be human.
Your presence here is a gift. Let's shift with grace,
with love,
together.
Laziena, welcome to Soul Shift. We are so grateful to be able to have this conversation with you.
Mindy, thank you so much. I appreciate the conversation. Thank you so much for the introduction. I was like, oh my gosh, I do a lot. Go me. I was celebrating. I appreciate being able to have this conversation, especially with 3 other women. I think it's so important when we get together and can truly, just look back on our lives and see how far we've come, celebrate the things that we have accomplished, and from curiosity, understand what got us here and how we can do that differently. So I love the space and I'm excited to be a part of the conversation.
Oh, it's wonderful. And what you bring to us is such a paradigm shift from how most of us were raised, right? One of your core teachings is that every emotional reaction is actually protecting a need, right? And so many of us were raised to suppress or just move beyond painful and uncomfortable emotions to get over it, as so many of us were told, right? To avoid what could end up being a volatile reaction and to see such reactions as problems to fix. So help us understand how to identify the need that's beneath an emotional reaction in real time. And what does it actually look like when we're triggered?
I like to use myself as an example. Like you made a good point about we were taught to suppress our emotions for so long and we weren't really able to express that. And for me, what I learned was I was always angry, and the way that I would go about it would destroy relationships. And when I started to look deeper into the what is beneath the behavior, because we sometimes associate emotions and behaviors to be the same thing when they're actually separate. So as I learned how to separate my emotions, I started to learn more about emotional needs and how important they are, because we all have emotional needs that have been gone unmet since we were babies and we just didn't know that. And one of the ways that I like to come back to that is if I notice that I'm getting upset, or if I notice that there's a hole in my chest, I feel a lot of attention to my body. And so whenever there's something that's happened, so Mindy, let's say you and I get into an argument, and in that moment, there's something that offended me. I am going to have a reaction in my body where it's either in the bottom of my heart, I like to call it, and it pulls down, or it's a tightening in my core, and it just doesn't feel well. And if I go and I react from that, in that moment, what is it that is happening? Is it that I don't feel heard? I don't feel understood. I am trying to earn your validation. I am trying to prove my point. I am essentially making my need in that moment something that you're responsible for instead of going within. When I learn that that is my responsibility, well, then what is it teaching me? Most of the time, I would say that sometimes it's a boundary. I'm allowing something to happen in my life that I'm not okay with. I'm allowing you to speak to me a certain way that makes me feel disrespected. When I learn to pay attention to my body and what my emotions are telling me, anger often tells me I'm passionate about something, or I'm not feeling heard or understood. And when I'm not feeling heard or understood, there's another layer. I'm thinking that our connection is at risk. So I need to get you to see that I mean well, and that's not how I'm taking it. And this is not the direction that I want to go. Please hear me. But that comes out as you never listen to me. You're not hearing me. I'm not important to you. But ultimately, the connection feels at risk. I'm feeling abandoned. In repair, you are important to me. So it's important for me to be able to switch that and say, when you said that you don't value me and this space is not safe anymore, can I get some reassurance that that is not true? Or can I get some reassurance of the ways that you are putting in effort that I may be blinded to, that I'm not looking at? And so that takes a level of awareness, because I also need to understand my emotions first. I need to know what my needs are, how to meet them, so that when I'm in relationships with you, I don't go and set that down for you to say, I'm not allowing Mindy to talk to me like this ever again. But instead of, well, Mindy maybe spoke to me that way, but what was my part in it? How did I contribute to this connection that's happening? And what is my relational responsibility to change that outcome?
So what you're talking about really is, again, as comes up so often here on Soul Shift, relationship to self.
It must start with relationship itself. There has to be personal development first before they can be group development. And so the personal development aspect of it is repairing within myself too. In that moment when I am feeling unheard or I'm not feeling valued, I need to be able to affirm that I am valuable, and not have that replay in my head that says that I'm not important to someone, or make that belief what I respond from, but more so, Mindy loves me. I have a great relationship with her. It's okay that we can have a moment of misconnection. Something might be going on, and that doesn't mean that this relationship is at risk, that I need to completely abandon myself in order to make the relationship work. Or the opposite, which is, how am I showing up for Mindy as well?
Thank you for that.
I'm enjoying this conversation, and there's something I want to touch on that I see a lot in my work, and I've experienced in my own life, and I'm sure many people will feel the same way, is that we repeat patterns even when we intellectually know better, right? So we know we shouldn't people please, but we do it anyway. We know we shouldn't over-explain, but we just can't stop ourselves. We know we shouldn't shut down, but our body does it before our mind can even intervene, right? So, why do we repeat patterns when we intellectually know better?
That's such a great observation. It's one of the things I think that fueled me as well, because like, okay, I know I understand what I'm doing. I was once a very, very aggressive mom, and I will be so upset with myself because after it's happened, or even while it's happening, I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing? I don't like this. And I would even enlist my kids and my ex-husband at the time. Like, when you see me going through this spiral, can you like rein me in so that I can do something differently? But what I've learned is that it has so much to do with alignment. First, we can have the awareness, but there also needs to be integration. Because I think what often ends up happening is that when I bring in awareness to how people behave and how I'm behaving, I start to look at how other people are behaving, and I miss that part where I actually need to look at me. It's called self development for a reason, not for me to self develop and judge other people for how they're showing up. And I think we can get caught in that loop and not realize that we're not integrating the things that we're learning. So I learned that at a very young age, about age 6, I created this belief that my father didn't want me. I believed that. So everything in my life, every decisions that I made, every choices that I made reinforced that belief. So I was recreating my pattern. I didn't even know that this was the case until I went to experiential personal development workshop, where it forced me to be able to see logically this, to understand that these are the patterns, but also energetically this happened. There was a couple moments in my life where I had a deep emotional impact, and that deep emotional impact went unacknowledged. And so I went my whole life not knowing what that is. So every time I get triggered, that is what's rising in my body. Now, the studies are from between 0 to 3 is when we learn our nervous system regulation and we learn our emotional needs, or, what emotional safety feels like. And so, with the history of man, I don't think anyone has successfully mastered that without shame. So, while I was in that workshop, I also learned 30 tools on how I can integrate this. And so, one of the biggest mistakes I feel that I could have made was I could have come home and said, I know this, and this is how I can serve other people. But instead, I went and dived. I found ways to make sure that I triggered myself so I could see how it looks like in real life as I'm showing up with other people, because those beliefs end up coming out sideways in a resentful moment that my younger self had. I didn't get to have that acknowledged by my parent. I didn't get an apology. So energetically now that's going to come out at work. I'm going to people please my way at work. My validation is on the line when I produce a product and I gave it to my manager. I want them to validate that. And when they don't, my whole body is so tense. So there was no alignment with my thoughts, the healing work that I needed to do, and experientially letting it out at once for that coherence to happen. And when those 3 things happen, there's so much deep healing that goes in there, but it ends up being hard work. And I feel like the minute it means going a little deeper and understanding a trigger a little bit differently. What comes up is shame. And shame was like, oh no, I'm bad. And it triggers that like core belief of I'm not good enough, or I'm not worthy, or whatever it is that each of us can carry or tend to carry. So I really, really think for me, it's integration has got to be a key component. We can learn and read and we can take in all the knowledge that we want. But if we're not healing those wounds and understanding what our mother wounds are, our father wounds are, how they shape us, and how that shows up in every single relationship that we have and how it sabotages, then we're going to continue subconsciously, energetically. We can use controlled words. We can be in a meeting and be very upset and say, oh, I'm managing my emotion, or I have emotional mastery because I'm not reactive. But internally, how does that look when I leave a meeting and I don't feel heard? Who gets the brunt of that? Who ends up paying the price for that at the end of the day? That's just been my experience, how I observe my children and being present so that I can be open to that feedback as well of how it's looking for other people.
What I'm hearing from you is so powerful because you're helping people understand first awareness, right? That something is happening in the body before it connects to the mind. and that the guilt, the blame, the shame, this isn't a personality defect. This isn't their fault. This is essentially their nervous system wanting to keep them safe from whatever small or big T trauma they had, right? Because we're all humans. So I believe, I don't know if you agree, that we've all had some type of trauma in our life. Sometimes we know exactly what it is. Sometimes we don't, but I love that you tied the brain and the nervous system connection together. And, one thing I've read that you teach a lot is how the nervous system plays an essential role in conflict and connection. And you've said that, the regulation has to come before the repair. And that, the way I look at it is you can't solve a problem, any type of problem, from a dysregulated state. It's almost like if you're trying to solve a problem in a chaotic state, you're going to get a chaotic answer, right? And so can you break this down for us? I have two basic questions from the standpoint of what is the role of the nervous system in this conflict and connection association? And how do we first recognize that we are dysregulated? Because I think a lot of people are living in a dysregulated state, but they actually think it's normal, right? Do you agree? They just feel like this is me, right? This is who I am. I like to say, I think a lot of us are normalizing stress or normalizing chaos, right? Versus saying, oh, wait, maybe I'm not functioning as I should, So to clarify, if you could talk into that a little about the role of the nervous system in conflict and connection, I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Absolutely. I'm by no means a science person in this aspect. It's just what I've learned about myself. And you're absolutely right, Christine. We're in survival mode. And I think about myself, for example, right? I just turned 45. I started my healing journey unintentionally 7 years ago, but I got very curious about everything that I wanted to learn about myself because I felt like there's so many layers. There's got to be things that I could learn more about. I love that curiosity about myself. 2 years ago, I started learning more about my nervous system. Even I'm at work sometimes and I'm in a meeting and I could feel like my shoulder is like this. I feel my shoulders, but when I'm looking at myself, I'm like this. But internally, I'm like this, right? So I started paying more attention to that because for 40 something years, I have been locked into survival mode. I've had life experiences that pushed me. Like when my second marriage was over, I need to fight for my kids. I need to work 4 jobs. I need to get everything together. And that's a lot of stress for one person to carry, along with all of this generational trauma that I didn't even know existed in the first place. So there's just really so much that's in our bodies that just hasn't even been explored. I'm learning about my fascia. I'm learning about different ways that these things show up. But there was a day I was having a disconnection with a guy that I was dating. And he came over and he realized what I was trying to share. And he hugged me and he apologized. And the next day he was like, Laziena, I felt your whole body softened. And I was like, huh. That's really interesting to me that, my body softened. And I started realizing that I received it. I was able to receive it. And that's what made the difference. Around the same time period, I was trying to be a better parent to my oldest daughter. I didn't realize that I was parenting from guilt and shame. So whenever I was approaching her, I had this energy of I need you to accept me. I need you to believe in me. I need you to hear me. And it's I was forcing that. I literally feel it like this inside of me. So once I started to realize, okay, I am parenting from that guilt space. She's not able to receive me because I can feel that she's not able to receive me. So once I switched that mindset and I started approaching her without expectation, just for the connection and the conversation, I felt like I was received. Now, me personally, growing up, what I learned is that 0 to 3 thing, right? That's when we learn our nervous system safety and emotional needs. But by age 7, our limiting belief starts in. And by 13, we hone in on that. That's our identity now. Well, thankfully for me, I experienced love and compassion from my grandparents in a way that really stuck with my nervous system. So I always believed in redemption and I believed in forgiveness. But I didn't know that it actually had to be received as well. So this is what I experienced with my daughter, because once she was able to receive me, I felt redeemed. I felt like we had a chance. I felt like I was given a really precious gift to be in a deeper connection with her. And so to be able to recognize those nervous system holes within another person, it just kind of gave me more awareness and understanding. As a movie, right? There's this little kid who's excited and want to go show mom and dad their report card, or like, look at what I did. And then they go and mom and dad wasn't present. That moment, like, stays directly in the body. And that is what ends up happening whenever there's a trigger that's an argument with a spouse or a friend or whatever precious relationship that is. That moments get triggered over and over. So no matter what awareness we have, it's still impacting the inside. For it to truly be able to release, it needs a space. It needs to be expressed so that everything else can come out from under it. It needs soothing. Whatever it needs is so detailed down to the person, because everybody has their own soul note. They have their own journey. They have their own experiences and beliefs. And so I'm like, man, it's really hard for people to be able to do this with each other because they don't really know that this is even happening with them. It's really about receiving, being able to receive an apology, because we have conflict resolution. We get together, we sit down, we explain each other's side. But how do we really repair? How do we really get back to say this relationship is safe no matter what? And so I learned that we just didn't know how to name it. So that's why I created this quiz. So that way it's 30 questions. It's all of our emotional needs. And once somebody goes through that, they're able to identify how the way they like to receive, also how the relationship can become better, whether it's with self or others. So it's a way to name what we need so that when conflict arises, we can be able to honestly communicate that without the trigger. Again, that also means practicing it. It also means seeing how it shows up and going deeper into how can we align this with our love languages? How can we look how our attachment style plays a factor in that? So it's like a little bit of a roadmap so that we can have that name. I assume that you guys know the power of naming something. Once we are able to name it, it gives us that leveling playing field. So let's say Ali is somebody who likes, whenever you are upset with someone, you want them to at least, or someone has upset you, whatever the case is, right? You want them to at least say, you know, Ali, I understand what that felt like for you. And here's how I understand. And they share a moment where they experience that very thing as well. And then what is it that you need so that we can come back into connection? Because I don't really want this to affect you. Well, this is something that is coming maybe from a pure space of mine, whatever it is, clearly it affects you and you are somebody important to me. So I want to honor that journey and see how we can really come back from that. Now, to be able to do that, that would tell me that Ali speaks the accountable language. Her nervous system really maybe had a problem with injustice, and she felt like there was some injustice that was done, and she just wanted to at least feel like you understand. Not empathy where I'm putting my feelings, I'm sitting with you and I'm understanding your journey, but truly like I am taking ownership for how I showed up on this side of it. Now, there's another one, which is the empathic, which is sometimes we just want to be understood. We just want to be able to speak from our heart and feel heard, not just listen to, but feel heard. So now having these names, Mindy and I get into a disagreement, I can say, Mindy, can we take the time to explore what that looks like? And then I feel like it gives us a chance to really understand each other's nervous system. Not only understand it, but explore it. Because what happens from 0 to 5? What environment did you grow up in? What was that like for you? Was your parents so overprotective that you felt like you couldn't do anything at all? You didn't have that self-trust within yourself? Or was it that your mom was always emotionally abusive and you didn't know how to receive? Because ultimately, our fathers teach us how to love ourselves and our mother teaches how to nurture others. And so if those core things hasn't happened in childhood, then you're going to have a whole new makeup. And I would like to explore that. I want to see your life as a journey. I want to be along for the ride. And I also want to know how you can receive support. Because if I'm offering clarity, but you want to feel witnessed, that is not going to feel supportive to another person's nervous system. And that can also mean that the person who's offering it is going to feel rejected, or they're going to feel like their efforts not being matched. There's no reciprocity. And that causes more disengagement than it does bring us together.
I'd love to highlight a couple things that I think are really strong takeaways in that. When you first spoke about connecting with your daughter, and then rather than looking at it through a guilty lens, that you had neutrality and then presented it to her, you were able to self-regulate yourself first. And then you had the capacity and the bandwidth and the ability to start talking with her in non-guilt language, we'll say, right? And then be able to co-regulate with her through, it could be anything. It could be through breath, through, your heart space, through the language, through hugging, any mode that you decided to use with her. And that's just a powerful gift that we can all give each other, whether it's friends or family or even, in the workplace, if you're having a conflict conversation to a productive conversation, right? And I love how you're integrating and sharing with us your repair language, because I wholeheartedly agree about when we are able to name it, we take that guilt and that blame and shame off of us, rather than saying, I am depressed, right? You're experiencing a depressive state or you're navigating depression, right? But you're a beautiful person. And, I loved how you've created different labels per se, right? I'm sure you have with the different names for your repair language is so, so useful for the person's psyche, and also for them to step back and say, this isn't a personality conflict or personality flaw, I should say. Like, this literally is just what happened when I grew up, when I was a little child, and it's happening to all of us, and it's okay. And the great thing is you can be empowered to shift and to heal. And that's what I love you're providing for people, One thing you really touched upon, if you could clarify, you were saying that, and this is my words, tell me in yours, but that receiving is an actual nervous system skill. A lot of people, especially Westerners, fix it. We have to, you're broken, we have to fix, right? And we're not looking at receiving as something that's caring and that's available to us. And so, a lot of people have low self-worth because of these past traumas, and they think they have to go out and, like you were sharing, get pats on the back. They start people pleasing. They need to earn this love. They need to be able to receive. So what advice would you have for our audience that they don't have to fix anything, right? They can receive just who they are. How can we reframe that concept of us trying to fix ourselves to be able to have the ability to receive?
Oh my gosh, when I think about receiving, I think about all of the times that I wasn't able to receive. When I was little, I saw my dad pass a gift over the fence, and this is in South America, Guyana, right? And so, it's like Christmas time, and I thought, oh, it's a doll. I saw the doll, and I thought it was for me. Well, later on, I found out that the doll was he had a daughter with someone else, who's now my sister, and I shunned her for my whole life. But in that moment, right, I created a belief that around gifts. And so, oh my gosh, if you talk to my ex-husband or anybody who has ever tried to give me a gift, immediately, I don't want it. I don't want it. And I didn't know why I didn't want it. So I was doing this deep dive with my daughter. We did the love language test. Her and I both scored 0 for gifts receiving. And I was like, well, why is that? So we kind of started exploring. And she said that when she was younger, receiving often came with a little bit of ungratefulness. I would say look at all the things that I've given you. Why aren't you appreciative of this? Or you should be thankful of that. And so her, of course, nervous system, her emotional needs all came and said that I'm a burden for receiving gifts or wanting gifts. And for me, that moment meant that my dad didn't want me. I was like, nope, I'm never ever receiving gifts ever again because that's what it brings up for me. So that blocks me from receiving anything. My ex-husband bought me a cake for my birthday because it was a cake that I didn't like. I threw it away. Anybody buys me a gift, I will put it in the closet because I'm like, why are you giving me this? And there was so much resentment that came with it. It was like, it's not practical. I can't even use that. But it was like, I attached my worth to that. And so what I've learned is like, I can do that differently. Now, when I receive gifts, I open it. I take the time to think about what the person's intention was, that they actually thought of me. And this is an act of love. So my experience with receiving has really truly been going back to my love languages and understand how my sabotages and my avoidant tendency like really impacted that. And I also realized that I wasn't broken. It wasn't that I was broken. Every time I had something that needed to be expressed, I was given maybe a recipe book to solve it, or someone's offering a solution, and I wasn't feeling heard. So I needed to do that work internally so that I can hear myself, I can validate myself. So when someone is offering feedback, I can receive it for what they are observing and not as an identity attack that something is wrong with me. At any given time, whenever something, the one of the best experiences I've had in my personal development journey or my growth journey has been when someone sat with me or spoke to me, held that space, and let me know that I'm okay. And they have also been through that. And was like kind of in the mud with me. And then I was able to receive. Because when I'm being thrown with solutions or anything like that, that doesn't really make me feel safe enough to be able to do that. So at any given time, it's not that we're broken. It's not like I was flawed. Like I can say I was doing it wrong, but I also needed to look and see how I can do it right. Not just look at the wrong. There's so much grace and compassion that's needed along the way because I faced things about myself that I didn't like, that I didn't appreciate, that I was ashamed of, I had deep regret about. In facing those regret taught me about the things that I value, that I honor. It told me when it's time to take action, when it's time for me to be able to say powerfully, this is what I want and this is how I want to do it with love and compassion. So it's an inward exploration instead of a broken. It is a discovery, a true discovery of who we are. And that's what makes it even more unique because at the end of that, it's like, oh my gosh, I was completely fine. I just wanted love this whole time. And this is me. And this is, I get to embody this and I get to share this with other people. I get to be in better connection instead of the, oh, I'm a flawed, I'm being blamed, everything's wrong with me. It's such a fine line. But I really, really believe that honing in on those very feeling and go down, go deep, exploring it. It's beautiful. It's truly, truly beautiful.
And I hear a lot of forgiveness in there too, through your discovery. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. And Laziena, I'm going to switch gears a tiny, tiny bit, but it's one of the questions you wanted us to ask you that I read and was like, oh, that one's an important one. And I think it's especially important for those of us that are navigating more challenging relationships. But I would love to hear your thoughts on what does repair look like when you cannot change the other person, right? So when you're sort of stay in this stuck mode of waiting for someone else to change or waiting for someone else to apologize or waiting for someone else to finally see us. So what you're teaching feels very, very different. And I'd love for you to talk into what does repair mean in this context?
That's the most beautiful part that I love. For me, self-repair is so, so important. There's going to be people in our lives that are just not going to be able to meet us. We're not able to meet me. And that was a journey that I had to go within and really reparent my inner child because I had put so much of my worth into someone else. And then I did it intentionally too. I was like, this person is valuable. I love and I appreciate them. And I need to show them in my effort that they are the person that I care about. and my efforts. Well, when that wasn't being received, it was heartbreaking. And what that heartbreak taught me was that there's a moment where there's this little girl inside of me who just wanted to be loved. And she's been waiting on me to show up for her. And instead, I was showing up for other people and I was showing up for other people and I self abandoned in those moments. So it's really going back to in the repairing of that. Unfortunately, we are going to have people that are going to come out of our lives. We can't change that. That is part of alignment and flow. And it is heart wrenching, but it is also being able to meet that version with, I understand inwardly. Sometimes I take my little girl out and I carry her around, like, brushing my teeth, we're brushing her teeth, like, put her in the car, put her seatbelt on. And that kind of practice helps me really like take care of her. Why are you sad? Well, I'm sad because I really wanted love and I really, really liked this person and I really valued them. And now I get to reparent because I was operating from such unconsciousness in the first place. So now I can be intentional with how I repair with myself and look at the relationship for how much I sacrificed her self-worth, that part of me, how much I didn't take care of her. It's like we have taken radical self-accountability in a way that takes back the healing to me being able to give myself what I need in order to grieve the relationship, mourn the relationship, get the lesson and the wisdom that I need to grow even more. Because ultimately, no one's coming to save us. I needed to go back and I needed to nurture that connection within myself. And that is a whole journey of discovery too, because I get to really hold myself really precious. And when I made that connection, I was like, I got you. I'm here for you now. I'm going to protect you and I'm going to take care of your heart. And that means I'm not going to sabotage the love that you want. I'm going to be open to receiving so that you can have that connection that you've always desired and the one that I robbed you of. And also, like, I felt forgiven by her. I felt like compassion. It was such a special moment to have in meditation where I felt that energetic connection in alignment with my thoughts and my feelings and my awareness and the different versions of me that went so far for others. And now I get to meet myself there and not from a place of like, I'm not allowing this in my life anymore. No, 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 no. From that resistance or that empowerment that can push people away, but from that empowerment that says that connections are going to go. As a child, people have passed away. We've never learned how to really mourn. We've never really learned discernment in a way that aligns with who we are. We get taught what discernment is, but discernment truly is not about not being emotionally connected. It's being emotionally connected without self-abandonment. And so that's been, the journey for me when it comes to self-repair.
I love that you have created the bridge between knowing, which is basically comes from self-awareness, and being, right? Becoming the change that we want to see goes so far beyond just the knowing and the doing. It's so important. And that in itself creates this embodied safety. So I thank you for that explanation. I thank you for helping us to see that we can take agency and give ourselves permission to go back, take care of the inner child. I love that you said you strap her into the car with the seatbelt. That's wonderful. So I thank you for your heart.
I do too, Laziena. And you have such beautiful offerings. And I would love for you to share with our audience where they can find you and how they can work with you.
So anybody that wants to work with me, they could just go to laziena.com. My website has my offerings on there, but I also have some freebies, and these aren't tied to any kind of like data collection. You literally go and download it. I have an attachment repair guide, and that's for people who are aware of their attachment style and how they can navigate relationships with the lens of repair. I also have parenting cohort every Thursday evening at 7:30. And my goal for that is no cost right now. because I want to be able to really sit down with families. And we've always passed on generational trauma, and that we've heard of this generational cycles, these trauma cycles. Well, now we can be intentional with curiosity and not the shame, create generational blessing. We can create emotional safety in our family from that space of what is that bridge and utilizing that bridge. So I want to hold conversations with parents who want to do it differently. It's not about blaming. It's not about shaming. It's about, let's look at everything that's happening in our lives and where are areas that we can do this differently. And so there's also a downloadable for teens for when it gets hard. And it's a workbook. So you're having struggle with your teen, they may not be receptive to it, but there's this workbook that they can, they can have and they can explore, because it really does go deeper in a way that teens can understand. And this is mirrored because of my own teen, learning about her nervous system, and myself when I was 17, nobody was talking to me, so it's being able to validate their experience and go a little deeper, so that they can also understand what their emotional needs are. Because I really believe that the teenagers up here, when our nervous system is locked in, so it's here. And so I want those to be things that people have access to, so that they can experience something new, something different, and give ourselves a chance to pay it forward and create that new cycle, transform the cycles into generational blessings.
That is lovely. Thank you so much for this precise and really profound conversation. This is a reminder that our emotional patterns are protection and they're not pathology. And for all of us listening, we're not broken. We're just doing the best we can with our nervous system that's trying to keep us safe. And that's really a liberating message. I really appreciate that. And your work gives us language to what so many of us have felt, but may have not really understood.
And to everyone listening, I encourage you to take the relationship repair language quiz. I know I will. And explore Laziena's work, as she said, at laziena.com. This is work that will change how you understand yourself and how you relate to everyone in your life. And as we always say here on Soul Shift, small shifts create big transformations. And sometimes the most powerful shift is simply understanding that your reactions are not the problem. They're the protector. And beneath them is a need that deserves to be met with compassion rather than correction. So if this episode resonated with you, please share it with someone who needs to hear that they're not broken. And if you're new here, welcome to the Soul Shift community. Subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and join us every week as we explore the moments that change us, the nervous system behind it all, and how to come home to yourself in the sometimes messy middle of it all. So until next time, keep shifting your mind and igniting your soul. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for sharing the sacred time today.
We hope something in this conversation touched your heart
And offered nourishment for your soul's journey.
Remember, transformation is most effortless when it happens one tender shift at a time.
Until next week, we invite you to carry one insight from today into your life.
Not as a task.
Think of it as a superpower to yourself.
If something resonated, we'd love to hear from you. If you're joining us on YouTube, feel free to leave us a comment below.
Your words ripple outward, offering connection and comfort to others walking this path beside you.
If Soul Shift feels like home, please subscribe and consider leaving us a review.
Your support will help us reach more hearts that need to hear they're not alone.
We're holding you in love, so know you're not alone. Your journey matters.
May your heart be filled.
And may your path be filled with grace.